Thank you.
It's time now for our February segment with Mayor David Kaptain. Mayor, we're inside and toasty today, aren't we?
We are, Jeff, and it's anniversary almost for all of us in one way, and not in the best way. It's been about 1 year since we had our first COVID cases identified in the United States, and back in March of last year, we declared an emergency situation in Elgin, and we started to change the way that we were doing business, and businesses started to close. And today my guest is Carol Gieske, and we'd like to talk a little bit about how businesses, how the chamber have adapted to the issues that have faced them, and isolation that's required, the Zoom meetings and things like that we've all gone through. And we do a thing called the President's Council and discuss issues and people talk about what they do in their business, and we have such a wide, diverse business platform in Elgin that they all do different things, and they all had some great ideas as to what they did to survive. And I had asked Carol Gieske, president of the chamber, executive director of the chamber, to come with us today and talk a little bit about some of those things.
We love her stories. She's been in charge 9 years now for the chamber,
yeah.
and she has wonderful stories for us.
Okay, Carol, it's good to have you. And we've talked a lot with some businesses and how we started out, and how's the chamber adapted, and what kind of changes have you had to make?
Well, Mayor, thanks for the invitation today, Jeff. It's just a pleasure to be here. We've all gone through such changes in this last year. It's interesting that you say it's a year anniversary today that we started this long trial of all new way of operating businesses in the community. You submitted your emergency status here in March, and as a result of that, many businesses closed down immediately. We have thousands and thousands of businesses in the area, and people ask, well, what's the state of business? It's hard to say because it's dependent upon that sector. Mary, you've been out at retailers, you've seen what's happened. We all know what's happening with the restaurants. Yeah. As of last night, the state moved us to Tier 2 in Elgin and Payne County and Cook County, the suburbs. So we now have the opportunity for Grand Victoria Casino to come back online, Marcus Theater to come back online with some of the restrictions still in place, of course, and the restaurants still continuing to adapt to be able to service individuals, to do carryouts and that they've done before, but maybe the outdoor dining, which they hadn't done before we got into the cold of the winter. So there's been a lot of adaptations. As you said, we met with our President's Council on a monthly basis when this started and learned from different businesses how they adapt. So some businesses like SureWorks here in town got a call from the White House and said we need more PPP. As a result of that, they ramped up, and Chris and his staff were able to produce more PPP than ever before. So you see that response that's happened with a large manufacturer. We've been manufacturers like JBBS, Sanfilippo, Fisher Nuts. Of course, everyone's home baking. Have you been baking?
Constantly.
And Mayor, I'm sure you put some nuts into some
I
cookies.
do eat a lot of them.
Okay, there you go. So we see where Fisher Nuts has had a great year. They're still hiring. They're looking for people.
Wonderful.
But part of what they're facing is, can they use robotics in the workplace? They had scheduled that they would start looking at robotics for their firm. With COVID, now they've ramped that up a little bit to explore how they can use robotics within the workforce. When we started all of this, we saw unemployment skyrocket to almost 19% here in Elgin. It's now come down to about 7%, what it was pre-COVID. So many of our employers, from the very largest employer to the very smallest employers, are still looking for people. And that's encouraging to see what's happening as well.
And Mayor, that Tier 2 announcement about January 18th that affects how we look at City Hall and other places like that, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Public buildings are closed, and had closed, and we had closed, and we opened, and it was kind of off and on. And I think that's one of the things that I found in dealing with business leaders, and when they come to Elgin, they love Elgin because of the consistency. When you can't offer the consistency, people pull their horns in, and businesses will slow down. And it's just like anything else. If you're worried about your job, you're not going to go out and buy a new house. You're going to wait and say, well, we'll sit here where we're at. And I think businesses are the same way, and we need to recognize some of the great things that they've done and to adapt to this. And they managed to stay in business. They managed to keep many of their employees. We've had to furlough people and things at City Hall. Many of the other municipalities have the same type of problem. And we are, I look at us as a business but as a not-profit, one that never makes any money. But not a good thing from Carol's standpoint, from the business community.
True.
That's not what they're directed to. That's
Yeah.
what we do.
Have a lot of businesses come to you, Carol, to sit down and ask for help?
We have had the honor of working with so many different businesses, especially in the area of assistance that might be available, the PPP grants and the Kane County COVID grants. So we really have been at the forefront trying to make sure that people understood that money might be available to them, what is the process, and make sure that they follow the guidelines and the timetable too, because those are important. So as we speak today, the second round of PPP opens up for all financial institutions. So I know many of them are gearing up to work with their customers as well as new customers on trying to get those applications in for federal assistance.
You get so many questions from everybody, even the sporting folks. Can we get back to playing sports, don't you, Mayor?
Exactly, and is that something that's going to be, our team sports going to be available? You know, one of the big things we do is the softball and the sports complex.
Big
And
event.
Are they? We can't say. We can't answer that right now, and that's the problem for them. They want to schedule some of these things. Look out for many months to schedule events and to do the planning. And we're talking about our last year when we canceled all our events for the city, the Nightmare on Chicago Street, the 4th of July, and we'll be looking at the same thing this year because the advanced planning takes so long, you just don't have time to finish it if it starts up. So we have to make decisions, and I think that we're seeing people that we see a shift, and you know, some businesses, and we'll take the restaurant business, and Carol and I had conversations with one of the major fast food people. Their business is going great guns. But they've had carry out forever. And the smaller businesses suffered, but their businesses, the carry out business is doing great guns for them. So there's a little bit of a shift in some of those things, and we'll see what happens. And if we go back to the way things were totally, and I guess I've always been of the, you don't go through something like this and come out unchanged.
Sure.
And I think people are expecting it to go back, and we're going to just turn a switch and go back to the way things were. And I can't see how that's going to happen here.
It would take a period of time no matter what, wouldn't it?
Well, absolutely. And what's been interesting is during 2020, there was a lot of engagement of new businesses coming into the community or expanding within the community. So through our Elgin Development Group, our economic development partnership with the city, Tony Lusenko, our staff is working to make sure we get that information out to potential developers. There's about 1.6 million square feet available. There are 7 projects right now between 35,000 and 200,000 square feet that are looking at Elgin's buildings that are available, the speculative spec buildings that we have, and potentially taking some action between now and the summertime. So we are a destination, we remain a destination, and that's one of the best things that the City Council and the mayor under his leadership has made this a pro-business community. People know we have employees here, people know we do things well, that this is a destination for their businesses.
Well said. We're down to about 90 seconds, Mayor.
I think one last thing, we have to be prepared for what's going to happen. And Carol and I, this is a partnership. And even though that we pay and we have a contract with them, a purchase of service agreement, I look at this as a partnership. And we have to look forward to next year. And one of the things did a brief interview with Aaron Neal, our snow command. And he was out at the metro station at Big Timber Road. And they have almost 600 parking spaces out there. They got numbers out there. And he was out there in the middle of the day to see how the snow was plowed, and there were about 45 cars out there. And I think that there's going to be a shift here. That when this is done, people are going to say, "Hey, working from home ain't so bad." And maybe the businesses see it as a good thing. And one of the things we learned at the President's Council, one of our major employers here is an accounting firm, and he said that he's seen across the country and the people they look at, that even though their revenues are lower, their profits were higher. And businesses will look at that at the end of the day. We've got to look at the bottom line. And that's kind of what our approach is going to be.
That's fascinating, because a lot of major companies working at home, and they probably won't really go back if you work like at a United rather than going to Chicago. You can work at home.
Absolutely.
It does make it
and
efficient.
it puts
Less pollution, less cars are out.
It adds a couple of hours of home time to people's days, and you know, I think we're going to sort our way through it, and there are going to be some changes here for us in business, as how we do business and how businesses operate.
And we'd like to see you at home more often as well, Kate.
Well, we're very fortunate. We've been back, our staff's been back in the office. We are
Wonderful.
separated in separate offices. We aren't holding right now any meetings in our conference rooms. We went all virtual like everyone else did. The mayor and I were talking about ribbon cuttings and how few ribbon cuttings we've had because we want a social distance and we're adhering to the restrictions that are in place. As we move forward, all of us, including the not-for-profits who have not had the ability to do their events, which are so integral to the survival of those nonprofits, will hopefully begin to be able to take those from an offline into an opportunity where we can be together again, gathered safely soon.
Wonderful. President of the Elgin Area Chamber of Commerce, Carol Gieske. Wonderful guest. Mayor, we're out of time.
Jeff, thank you very much. We'll look forward to seeing you next month.
All right. We're always comfortable when you're with us.
Okay.
We love to watch you on TV. You know that.
All right. We're good.
Carol, thanks a lot. We appreciate that.
My
Great
pleasure.
work in all cases.
Thank you so much.
That's our segment for February with your mayor, David Kaptain.